That's right. Back at it again. Full custom hot dog. Doing another Blu-ray review. That's right. We're going to be talking about the Criterion release of Night of the Living Dead. Something that was brought up, recently requested, and something I also have always wanted to do. I haven't yet. I mean, I've got a lot of movies, so it only makes sense that there's going to be some I haven't talked about yet. Also, Star Crash was requested, so for the people requesting Star Crash, that's going to come, but it's going to be in a different format. I'm kind of working on something, brewing up some more styles of content and stuff, so that's going to be something kind of special, I think. I think Star Crash is something very special, so it deserves a special treatment. So, of course, you guys will know when that gets uploaded. It'll be a while, so definitely don't set an egg timer for me or anything. But, anyways, this Criterion release of Night of the Living Dead, a classic film. This is kind of a hard review to do. What can you say about Night of the Living Dead that hasn't already been said better and a million times over? Well, we can at least start with the review of the Blu-ray itself. So let me break down what Criterion has in this package. If you're not familiar with Criterion, they're kind of probably the upper echelon of Blu-ray or film preservation in general. They kind of get a lot of art housey style films or something. Films that matter, I guess, and I don't mean to put down everything else that I like, but important films. Like if a film comes out on Criterion, it sort of means something, I feel like. Like almost like it should be in a museum. That's kind of the weight they carry with themselves. So they have a pretty interesting list. I don't always find things I like there, but there's always a lot of interesting things, a lot of classics, a lot of newer stuff. You're not going to find things like Gamera on there, but you'll find things like Godzilla on there, for example, right? Not a lot of horror. I don't know. They did put out Silence of the Lambs, though, which will be great. I should review that at some point, too. I'm looking behind me to see what else is on my Criterion shelf. A lot of Wes Anderson. I think they pretty much have every Wes Anderson movie there. So yeah, it's a prestige label. And Night of the Living Dead absolutely deserves to be there. And is there. Let's talk about what it has, though, what this disc contains. 2 discs, actually. So, we've got a new 4K digital restoration supervised by director George A. Romero and co-screenwriter John A. Russo, sound engineer Gary R. Striner, and producer Russell W. Striner. New restoration of the monaural soundtrack, supervised by Romero and Gary Striner, and presented uncompressed. Night of the Anubis. Now, this is pretty interesting. A never before presented work print edit of the film, so you kind of have new scenes that were kind of restored to the best of their ability, because initially it was going to be called Night of the Anubis because they wanted to call it something that it just couldn't be called. I think the original titles they were coming up with kept being things already, or so they kind of thought that might have been a good idea for a little bit. It says new program featuring filmmakers Frank Darabont, Guillermo del Toro, and Robert Rodriguez. I don't know if they have a title for that. Really cool. Basically everyone is talking about this film, how important it is, and George Romero's work. Never before seen 16mm dailies reel. New program featuring, they call them programs here, not featurettes. It's kind of weird. New program featuring Russo on the commercial and industrial film production company where key Night of the Living Dead filmmakers got their start. That was really interesting. They have a really interesting Calgon commercial on there too, where they're like a submarine and it's like inner space. 2 audio commentaries from 1994 with Romero, Russo, Carl Hardman, Judith O'Dea, and others. Archival interviews with Romero, Dwayne Jones, and Judith Ridley. New programs about the film style and score. New interview program about the direction of ghouls, featuring members of the cast and crew. That one's really good. They talked to a lot of the people who played zombies in this and how it was the talk of the town, because this was a very local production, which this movie is interesting. We'll talk about a lot of that later, but this movie has so much, a weird sense of charm, because you can feel the down-home aesthetics and love for it, but there's also genuine, I was going to combine those words. It's a very genuine tension in this film, I think, that still hold up very well, that make it still a very tense watch. New interviews with Gary Striner and Russell Striner, newsreels from 1967, trailer spots, TV spots, radio spots, and an essay by critic Stuart Klawans. It is packed. This is it. If you needed Night of the Living Dead, which everyone does, because if you didn't know, I believe Night of the Living Dead's in public domain, which is why you see it pop up in so many weird places. And a lot of people have put it out in terrible versions, which is why I hadn't owned it for a long time. It actually had been a blind spot for me for a very long time until I had finally gotten around to see it. Gosh, maybe... No, I probably seen it around like 10 years ago, so I think. But I definitely saw Dawn and Day first. Because I think growing up, I was just kind of like, okay, it's probably just going to be basic zombies, you know? Not realizing all the cool film elements that come into play. Anyways, that's a A++ right there. That's the disc. That's the Night of the Living Dead. You're not going to get a better package unless they send you a Night of the Living Dead to accompany the package. It's great. Highly recommend if you need a copy, and you do. That should be in everyone's collection right there. And I'm someone who, if you follow all my reviews, you know I have blind spots. Pre-75 stuff can be hard for me. I'm kind of a baby, so when I find stuff that's older, that's really good. Obviously, this isn't like a find, but you know, those favorites I feel are very impactful for me. But obviously, this is a very important movie in general. So let's talk a little bit about the film, right? Well, like I mentioned, this movie's been talked about a billion times. Talked about to death. So I'll go over my thoughts and feelings, right? According to IMDb, Night of the Living Dead, a ragtag group of Pennsylvanians barricade themselves in an old farmhouse to remain safe from a bloodthirsty, flesh-eating breed of monsters who are ravaging the east coast of the United States. And this went on later to spawn everything zombie mania. This is directed by George A. Romero, passed away in 2017, directed several films, a lot of ups and downs in the career. Even things that I don't love of his, I still appreciate, I find. And I think that's kind of an important hallmark as a director. Something like Monkey Shines, which is kind of goofy, I still really enjoy, but you know I do have a love for the goofy. The movie itself is pretty interesting besides just being an early zombie film. Like I mentioned, there's charm, you can feel the small town productionness of it, but the tension is very tense. It's real, it's kind of raw. You see people eat the insides, and that's icky. But it's convincing, and the black and white, of course, helps. It's a lot of odd angles that I love. Almost, would you call them Dutch angles? I know I call myself a guerrilla film school student, but just a lot of odd choices for angles. One of the things that was interesting that's mentioned in the interviews is the use of gobos. And gobos are where you kind of, you have a light and you place a shape in front of the light so it shines through. So for instance, a famous one, right, would be if you are doing maybe the scene of a detective's office and you see light shining through blinds, so you kind of just see slits of light. That would be like a gobo in front of a light that's actually doing that. And this film uses that extensively, which works so many times. There's so much great use of shadows in this film that it's never not impressive. And this film almost feels like it could be made whenever, at any time, which is another great thing about it. I really love the performance here of the lead, Dwayne Jones, who they mention how everyone kind of flips out with this movie because he's a black lead at a time where you never had black leads. And they talk about how, well, he was just the best person for the job. And he came in and he did good job. So we hire him to do good job. And it's kind of interesting how that can add a total social commentary slant on everything, which is effective. And either way, whoever he would have been with the casting, that ending is pretty rough, but obviously made much more powerful because of his casting. But I like his performance here a lot. He sells it very well. Some of the other people, not so much. Dwayne spent a lot of his career, it sounds like, doing theater, at least according to some of the commentaries and things. And he seemed like he must have been a really good theater actor. You can kind of feel it here, too. This movie almost feels like it could have been made for the stage, but I also feel like that's kind of a lot of older acting style. Is a little bit more of the sell it to the back of the house type of crowd. You know what I mean? Anyways, I'm kind of rambling, but yeah, this is a great film, of course. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone dislike this film. In the comments, let me know if you of course, let me know if you like the film. But let me know if you dislike the film, and then let me know why you dislike the film. I think this is great. I think it's going to stand the test of time. We should be shooting this film into space for aliens to watch. I wonder what they would think. They probably would have no idea what's going on. It could just be a bunch of weird shapes holding guns to them. But anyways, I am Full Custom Hot Dog. Check out this movie. No, check out the Blu-ray from Criterion. But I just want to, of course, thank you all for watching. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe, etc., etc. And thank you all for watching. You can follow me on Twitter. It's Full Custom Hot Dog without the last O, because that's just too long for Twitter. And until next time.